So more information has come out on Bethel since making my last video, and I'm going to just do a quick video to share that information with you. So my last video was based on Mike Winger did a review of a book that is sold at Bethel called The Physics of Heaven, which gets into heavy New Age practices in the book, as well as the movie American Gospel had opened up just highlighting some of the wacky practices at Bethel. This isn't good all across the board, and unfortunately I don't have positive information to share with you here in this video either. The last thing I really wanted to do was really become like a discernment ministry or do videos like this. Trust me, it's not good for me, it's not good for views. Actually, I get a lot of dislikes on these videos. I'm doing them because I feel that this needs to be addressed and I can't stay silent. So many people question, should I have even done the last video? I had some private chats with people. And so let me play a quick clip here for you by Dr. Michael Brown. He would be considered an apostolic leader in the charismatic movement. Let's see what he has to say about this topic.
On the other hand, there are definitely practices that have come into question and should come into question. And there's a wacky book, Physics of Heaven. Pastor Mike Winger recently did a major critique about it that's going viral on YouTube. And I've asked Bethel leadership about it, and despite endorsements and forward, the official word I was given was it does not reflect our values and teaching and is not taught anywhere in our school of ministry. So it's disassociating from the book, but it's definitely wacky and certainly of concern. So by all means, let's address the concerns.
Amen.
By all means,
Amen.
Let's raise the issues.
So as you see from the video, Michael Brown is saying that these practices should be called into question. And he calls the book Physics of Heaven wacky, which is strong language, and says twice, by all means, we need to address these issues. Okay, so it's something that is relevant and needs to be addressed. In Galatians chapter 2, Paul calls out Peter in a public manner and even calls him a hypocrite, right? Which is a strong language. Nobody likes these conversations, but they do need to be had. Michael Brown confronts Bill Johnson about this privately, and Bill then goes ahead and denies it, that this is anything within Bethel's values. But the story gets worse, because since Michael Brown said that and released that private conversation that he had with Bill Johnson, several students have come forward to actually say that these books and practices are taught at their school. So here's an interview from a student who spent 3 years and graduated from the School of Supernatural Ministry. Let's watch the clip.
There being messes with revival, it basically gives you a free pass for there being crazy things, and sometimes blasphemous things, or not so scriptural things, or things that aren't really historically what the church believed, that come up. And then I think it was Dr. Michael Brown mentioned how he reached out to Bethel leadership if they teach those things in their school, and they said no. I'm going to full stop that one and say, yes, they did. Maybe they don't now. I'll give them that. I mean, I went 2008, 2011, so it's a while ago. But that book was published after I was there, which means it was in circulation. It was 2014, and it was continue to be in circulation and be used up until now. So to say it wasn't taught in the school, I can tell you right now, while I was there, much like on that video, many of those practices and things that we're talking about were things that were taught in the school. I think one of the parallels we talked about was spirit guides. And we can reclaim that. That's what Sozo is, guys. Sozo is spirit guides. Those are people that are, you sit down with them, you close your eyes, and they walk you through the Father ladder in different ways to reconnect with the Godhead. And that's what a spirit guide is. Trances. One of the main things Jonathan Welton mentioned in his chapter about what we can reclaim as trances. Bill wrote chapters in there. Benny wrote chapters in there. It was endorsed by Bill and Chris.
So Bill is Bill Johnson, the lead pastor. Benny is his wife. They both have chapters in this book that they all of a sudden pulled and told Dr. Michael Brown that they don't endorse.
Benny, and it's really strange to them, especially for Dr. Michael Brown, to be like, oh yeah, well, they don't teach that stuff. And I hate to break it to you, Dr. Michael Brown, and I would love to talk to you sometime, to be honest with you, because I actually love a lot of your work and I listen to a lot of your stuff. But they did teach it, and they have taught it in schools. There's a history of teaching that stuff in schools. So I know you're just taking their word for it. I know I'm just some random kid that graduated.
So this student and many others have confirmed that this New Age book and its practices are taught in the School of Supernatural Ministry. Actually, believe it or not, you're not going to believe this, but the book actually itself, the teacher explains that she was brought in as a teacher at their school and teaches their students many of these practices. This is like getting caught with blood on your hands and the murder weapon close by. I mean, this is as ugly as it gets, guys. Follow the simple logic here. The author of The Physics of Heaven was not just a member there, but she was on staff and close friends with the leadership. Then they went and put this book up in their store and taught it at their school. So since Mike's video, they took down the book off their website, but there's a major flaw here. Bill, his wife, and Chris Valentin all wrote whole chapters in this book. So even if they took the book down from their website, it's confirmed that this was taught at their school, and they wrote chapters in this book. Instead of rebuking this person and telling them not to read the book at all, they went ahead and wrote chapters in the book. They partnered with the New Age. Deuteronomy 18, verse 9 through 14. And when you come into a land which the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominations of those nations. So there, you were not to follow other people's practices, and actually it's an abomination. There they shall be not found among you anyone who makes his son or daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or who conjures spells, or is a medium or a spiritist, or the one who calls up the dead. For all those who do these things are an abomination to the Lord. Because of these abominations, the Lord your God drives them out before you. You shall be blameless before the Lord your God, for these nations which you will listen to the soothsayers and the diviners among you, but as for you, the Lord your God has not appointed such for you. So we should not be involved with any of these things. So since the last video, also a close friend of mine who was at the School of Supernatural Ministry and was a student there reached out to me, and she said, Josh, I saw your video, but you should have called me before you did that. And I said, I didn't want to bother you. I know you're really busy. You just had a baby. And she said, Josh, it's actually much, much worse than what even you're reporting. They are into yoga, and they call it Yoga for Jesus. Actually, yoga is encouraged at the school. And not only is it encouraged, but they believe that yoga can be used to glorify God. So they do all the poses. And yoga cannot be redeemed. I'm at a school at the Orbis School of Ministry right now, run by Ken Fish, and he teaches that yoga cannot be redeemed. It cannot be practiced. Christians should not be involved in this. It can open you up to the demonic. And so this is a New Age practice, which every pose is meant as a worship act to other gods. She said in class at the school, they had students line up and do Shiva arms, which is an imitation of a Hindu goddess. She then confronted the teacher about the situation, and you're not going to even believe what their teacher said. She said, you can take voodoo dolls and pray over it and use it as a blessing doll. Ladies and gentlemen, this all across the board is just wacky. Head toward the exits right now. If you go to Bethel, if you're involved in this church, get out, get away from this. This is wacky. This is unscriptural. She said they also use salt lamps at the school to help give off energy and light. Guys, you can't even make this stuff up. Like I said, I didn't want to get into like discernment ministry type of things, but I've got to sound the alarm. This is just ugly all across the board. She said the environment at the school was controlling and quite toxic. Actually, they have life-size cardboard cutouts of Bill Johnson and Chris Valentin that the students can take pictures with. This is just creepy. Lastly, she said, they want people who will do and say everything they want, or they will blacklist you and get you out of the school. So unless you follow all of their theology, all of their thoughts and practices, you're blackballed and then eventually kicked out of the school. Sounds like a cult to me. Guys, it brings me no joy to report this.